Welcome to my teaching channel. This video covers two topics. The first one is how to recode a variable, or say changing the coding scheme of a variable. The second topic is how to deal with variable as well as value labels. Let's get started. Make sure you have this data file and this do file on your desktop. Now double click on the do file to launch Stata. And then scroll down this do file to row 175. First, we need to set up the working directory to the desktop. Within the quotation mark, you have to set your own path to the desktop. And for me, this is the path to my desktop. So highlight row 178 and click on Do button. And then, as usual, we need to set up a log file to record everything we did. So this time, we change the log file name a little bit from 1B in the previous video to 1C. And the replace option will replace the existing log file with the same name in your working directory. So highlight it and run, and then we launch the data on the desktop. In GSS 2014, the variable sex is coded in 1 and 2 manner. 1 means male, 2 means female. So let's list the frequency table first. Highlight row 196 and run. You see that the variable sex coded in 1 and 2 is a convention for the GSS data. But this kind of coding is not dummy coding. So details about the dummy coding can be obtained from Wikipedia and any basic statistics textbook. Basically, a dummy coding is a 1-0 coding, which means that this variable can in a dummy coding should contain only 1 for one category and 0 for another category. So we have to make some change to the original coding scheme of the variable sex. In order to do so, we need to use the command recode. You have to spell this command verb in full, followed by a space and the variable name, the variable that you want to recode, and then a space followed by your coding scheme in pairs of parentheses. So for the variable sex, I want the original value 1 to be 1 in your in the recoded variable, and I want to change the original coding 2 to the new coding 0, so that your new variable contains only 1 and 0. It's in dummy coding scheme. And then in the option, we need to generate a new variable. How about we name it as sex underscore D? D refers to dummy. If you don't have this option, the original value of sex will be replaced. It's a good habit to always have an option like this to avoid any kind of accidental destroy of your original value. So one more time, this new variable name must be different from existing variable names. There should be no confliction between variable names. Okay? So how about we highlight row 197 as well as row 198 to see the recoding result. Click on Do File Now you see that by default, the variable label of your new variable sex underscore d will be recode of sex. And then if you look at the unique values here, it contains only 0 and 1. Now the variable sex underscore d is in dummy coding. Mission achieved. Actually, you can use recode to deal with more complicated situations, such as the next example. The variable educ is the highest level of educational years, so it is a continuous variable. If we list the frequency of this original variable educ, you will see that it contains value from 0 to 20. How about we want to have a new variable, which is the highest educational level. Okay, so that's a task to cut this continuous variable into several categories. So how to do so? We use the same command verb recode. No shorthand. You have to spell this term in full, followed by the space, and then the original variable name educ, followed by a space, and then this is your entire coding scheme. Here is an important skill that I want to introduce to you. Sometimes your command in the do file editor can be very, very long, which means you have to scroll to the right, and scroll to the right. It's not very convenient for readers to go through your command file. So one way is to deal with this shortcoming is that you can cut your entire very long command into several rows. Particularly this line here, this very thin gray line here is your reference line. You want your command on each row to be shorter than it. In order to do so, we need to provide a line separator, or say row separator, which is space, slash, 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 and enter. Okay, so you must have a space here, and you must hit enter after the last slash, so that you can start a new row and continue your command until you complete this command. One thing to remind you is that this feature only works in do file editor. If you want to do so in the command window below your output window, you will see a warning. Okay, so I think this feature is very nice if you have very complicated commands, and it's very easy for others to follow as well as for you to debug. Just like the previous example, we need an option to generate a new variable educ underscore d5. 5 means that this new variable contains 5 different categories. And let's look at the coding scheme. So from the minimum value, which is actually 0, from the smallest value to 6, this original value range in educ will be your new value 1 in the variable educ underscore d5. People with 7 to 9 years of education will be your second category in this new variable. People with 10 to 12 years of education will be your category 3. People with 13 to 16 years of education will be your category 4. And finally, people with 17 years or above education will be the last category of your new variable. Okay, so max refers to 20 for this particular case. Min refers to 0. And remember, both of the two values you specified will be included into the range. Okay, so how about we highlight the row 209 to 212, and let's complete this recode and see the distribution of the new variable. See that by default, the new variable has a variable label, recode of educ, blah blah blah, and it contains 5 categories: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So if you want to use the new variable educ underscore d5 as it is, it's okay. But maybe days later you won't remember the meaning of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's always a good habit to provide the variable label as well as value labels. And value labels are especially useful for discrete variables, just like educ underscore d5. This one is an orderable discrete variable containing 5 levels. Value labels may not be needed for continuous variable because values of a continuous variable carry the clear meaning of each value, so you don't have to provide any label to them. But value labels are very critical for discrete variables. So let's see how to deal with labels. First of all, for example, if I don't like this kind of variable label, I want to change it to educational attainment in 5 categories. The way to do so is to use the command label variable. You don't have to spell this info, just the first 3 letters of these 2 terms will work. Lab space var space followed by your new variable name, educ underscore d5 space, and then in the pair of quotation mark, you need to provide your new variable label to let your reader know what educ underscore d5 really means. So for this particular case, I want to label this variable educ underscore d5 as educational attainment in 5 categories. Highlight row 221 and then do. And let's see the result by listing the frequency table of this variable one more time. Now you see the difference. The variable label has been changed to the desired one. Another way to double check this change is to scroll down your variable list to the last row. And this one is your new variable educ underscore d5, and its variable label is educational attainment in 5 categories now. In addition to this step, you also want to label each unique values of this new variable educ underscore d5. 1 means primary school, 2 means junior high school, 3 means senior high school, 4 means some college or BA, 5 means master or above. So in order to attach this variable labels to educ underscore d5, you have to follow a 2-step procedure. Step 1, you define a value label by issuing command label define. You don't have to spell them info. lab space def space will work. Followed by a value label. This is not a variable name. It's the name referring to this setting of value labels. This value label name must be unique in your data file. And how about we name it as educ underscore d5 underscore l. L means label. Okay. And then the second step is to attach this label name or this set of value labels to the variable. So in order to do so, we need to use the command label values. Don't have to spell info. lab space val space will work. lab space val space followed by the variable name space the value label name. Okay, so once we highlight the entire chunk from the row 228 to 240 and run, you will attach this value label name to this variable. And let's see the result. Run row 243 to list the frequency table for educ underscore d5 one more time. Now you see we have value labels instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it will be very clear for your reader. What do you mean by 1? What do you mean by 2? And etc. This two-step procedure looks like complicated, but actually it's very useful if you have so many variables using the same set of value label. For example, you have measured educational attainment of every member in your household. You may have several measures of educational levels, and they share the same way of coding, and each code has this exactly same kind of meaning. Then you can reapply this value label name to all these variables. Actually, this feature is very nice if you have so many variables sharing the same kind of value label, same set of value labels. Another example is that if you have a Likert scale containing 20 or even 30 questions, you have 20 or 30 variables sharing exactly the same type of value label. 1 means strongly disagree, 2 means disagree, until 5 means strongly agree, right? So this feature is actually very convenient if you have lots of variables sharing exactly the same set of value labels. The last thing that I want to show you is how about you want to make a change to your value labels later. You can do so by issuing the label define. You don't have to spell it in full. To issue lab def followed by the value label name that you want to make some changes. For example, how about I want to change the category number 5 from MA or above to MA or PhD. So you can go ahead and just make your change, and then don't forget to supply a modify option. So the value label to the value 5 will be changed accordingly. And how about we highlight it and run? You see no warning. If you don't have modify option here, you will see a red warning because you are trying to define a value label name that has already been there. So you have to supply a modify option so you can make any change. This change will take effect immediately to all variables using the same value label name. So let's see the result. Highlight row 256 and run. You see that MA or above has already been changed to MA or PhD. You don't have to reattach this value label one more time. This modify option will make the change immediately. Okay, that's everything that I want to share with you. Don't forget to save your log file by issuing log close. And you don't have to save your data. Just keep this do file. Each time you want to do the new recoded variable, you just run those chunk of codes one more time. So clear the memory, and then you can exit from Stata. See you next time.